Heard the saying, you don't manifest what you want, you manifest what or who you are. But that saying doesn't quite hit the mark for me. I prefer to say, you don't manifest what you want, you manifest from who you are or who you choose to be. And the reason for that is a lot of people mistake that idea as having to become, using a person related manifestation as the example, you have to become the kind of person that you want to attract. But a lot of people mistake it for more for like pretending to like the same things as the person that they like. And that's not the case. So it's not so much that the saying you don't manifest what you want, you manifest what you are or who you are is wrong. I just think that it gets kind of misinterpreted a lot. So when you're coming from that place of, I need to act like I like the same things as this person for them to like me, that's physical world manipulation, 3D manipulation. That's going to backfire. So that's not what that saying means. It also might be misinterpreted into like, if I want them to chase me, then I chase them. And again, not the case. I want you to think of the idea of a yin and yang or like puzzle pieces, right? People can only show up as the piece that matches your piece. So whatever piece you're choosing to show up as, they need to fit into. You can't both be chased and chasing. So if you're always the one doing the chasing, if you're always the one initiating, if you're always the one prioritizing them, and that's always you in that role, then they can only ever show up as the person who's always taking, who's always leaving things till the last minute, who's always receiving, whether that's love, gifts, text messages. So some of you might be thinking about, attachment styles and things like that. I had a client yesterday who spoke about their attachment style and their specific person slash romantic interests attachment style. And I have spoken in previous videos about how I don't really like talking about the attachment style things because it is a label that a lot of people sort of keep themselves in when they claim it. Like, oh, I'm this attachment style and they're this attachment style. So how do we make this work then? Kind of thing. If I'm anxious attached and they're avoidant attached, then how's it ever going to work? Well, as long as you're showing up as anxiously attached, they're always going to show up as avoidant attached. And I have changed from, definitely more securely attached, not wholly securely attached, but more securely attached to someone to anxiously attached because they were avoidant in the past. And I didn't know, this was in my mid-20s, my first heartbreak, my only heartbreak really. I didn't know how to do the things that I teach you here. And those things naturally, without you having to overthink things like attachment styles, will help move you into a more secure attachment style without the overwhelm, right? It can be so overwhelming trying to learn about all the psychology and the science and things like that, when these cheat codes that I teach you in every video, nervous system regulation work, self-concept work, but not just your I am affirmations, also treating yourself how you want to be treated. That's something that I had to really go into in more depth with my client yesterday, as well as feel good things, doing things you enjoy that are unrelated to your manifestation. So I'm not talking those fleeting dopamine hits to do with your manifestation. Oh, I'm going to be there because they're going to be there, so it must be part of the most efficient route to my manifestation. That's not how that works. That's not to say that you can't go somewhere you know they'll be, but the motivation behind it, how you're feeling and thinking and believing about the situation, the pressure you're putting on the situation to be part of the most efficient route, those things can very easily turn something that might be part of the most efficient route to your manifestation into another detour. Those cheat codes address these things naturally. So I will be talking a bit more about these things. And the reason I don't generally talk about the branches of science that back up ideas of manifestation, the psychology side of things, is because I know a lot of you are delving into all of that and overwhelming yourself with all the information. And I keep trying to just encourage you to do the cheat codes because it will address all those things at once. But maybe I need to talk about those things a little bit more for you to know that, oh, that's something I don't really need to worry about because the cheat codes will address that specific thing. So when you do the cheat codes, you gradually become more and more securely attached. How does that look in, let's say, an anxiously attached person with an avoidant attached person like the client that I had a coaching session with yesterday. Even if they are avoidant, right, they are eventually going to become more secure if you're secure. And how can this look? Okay. I don't want you to be using this to micromanage the middle and be like, oh, okay, so when I do this, this is what they're going to do. They're going to blah, blah, blah. Don't do that. Okay. These are just examples of how it can shift things using something that falls a little bit more under the logic side of things, even though we know manifestation as a whole is not logical and we don't have the whole explanation as to the mechanisms happening in the background. But there are a lot of branches of science that back up the ideas or can explain what is explained in a more woo-woo sense with things that we have studied and researched with science. When your avoidant person is avoiding and you start to chase them, they're avoiding because the feeling of love or whatever that they feel with you, the comfort and all that sort of thing, that's unfamiliar to them. So therefore, on a primal level, it's screaming to their physiology, danger, danger, Will Robinson. When they start to avoid you and you start to chase them, that reinforces that unsafety in their physiology. Now, another reason why I don't like to talk about these things is because I don't want you to be concerning yourself with what they're doing. You can only choose your own experience. You can't choose theirs. And even if you're choosing theirs, you're only choosing how you're experiencing them experiencing something, right? When you give them a space as an avoidant person and use that time to regulate yourself and become more secure, do the not just the nervous system regulation, but also the other two cheat codes, they work together synergistically. They strengthen each other. Okay. Each cheat code strengthens the others. You will naturally become more secure. It will be easier for you to not try to chase them when they're avoiding. And what happens when you let them avoid, okay, without trying to convince them to come back or without chasing them, without being neurotic or heightened, right? They start to feel safe about being able to have the space that they need. And with that, they're going to need less and less space from you over time. With that, that is going to reinforce your security as well, your secure attachment style. But you have to give that to yourself first. And it's not your responsibility to fix them. This is not about them. You becoming more secure is about you. It's just that people start to show up in line with that. They start to become the puzzle piece that fits that when you focus on you. When you try to manipulate the physical world, what you're actually doing and why it doesn't yield sustainable results, or if it does, it's exhausting, is because you're trying to fit two puzzle pieces together, two versions of two people or things, if you want to apply it to tangible things together that don't fit, and you're constantly having to put pressure on those pieces to stick together. You know, when two pieces like just slightly not right in like an actual puzzle piece and you're trying to force them together, but you're like, it's actually not supposed to go there. That pressure takes a lot of energy to continue to apply to keep those puzzle pieces together. The communication part might take time because the communication part has to come with a level of detachment from whether or not they're going to fall in line with the way you want them to show up from now on. But also, the more securely attached you become, the less you're going to need them to conform in some ways. So let's delve into that a little bit. Part of manifestation is that, yes, your external world actually does physically shift in line with who you're showing up as because it's coming from you. You're a living projector. But part of it is also whatever lens you're looking at life through. Sometimes things are actually happening in a way that's not bad at all, is not going against your manifestation at all. It's never going against your manifestation if you're living from the end. But this is an example I like to use a lot with my clients, right? When they're nitpicking at a lot of little things because they're making those little things about how much that person loves them. Let's just say you tell your partner, like, can you please put your socks in the hamper, the laundry hamper? And they don't do that, but you're not doing the work on yourself to know that you are loved, respected, cared for, prioritized, committed to, all those things. And they leave the socks on the floor again. You're looking at that through the lens of that means they don't love me, but it doesn't mean that at all. And the reason why it also keeps happening is because on a psychological level, you're putting that in the forefront of their mind. Have you ever had someone tell you not to do something and you've thought so hard about not doing it. Let's say you were like sharing a house with people, right? And you accidentally woke them up and then they were like, can you just be a little more quiet? And then the more you tried to be quiet, the more like you would happen to drop things or bump into things, right? That's what is happening on a psychological level when you're constantly only ever pointing out the things that you wish people were doing better and not focusing on the things that they already do that are favorable. So it makes the shitty things that you don't like, or the not even shitty things that you're seeing as shitty through a shitty lens, right? That shit smeared lens, as really big things. And because you're not putting enough focus on the things that they do that are favorable, those favorable things aren't occurring to you as much. And so the little things that are not ideal are becoming a bigger deal for you in your mind. Where your focus goes, energy flows, right? Which means whatever you're focusing on grows, amplifies. When you start to notice more, as well as even tell them more the things that they do that you do like, and stop mentioning at all the things that you don't like, they will naturally start doing more of the things that you do like and less of the things that you don't. So who are you showing up as? Are you showing up as the person who's quite happy with their partner, who's, you know, and I'm not saying like if you're in a really heavy situation with someone that you should be sticking around and not I mean, you shouldn't be around them physically at all if that is the case. I won't say the word, but it starts with ab and ends with use. Okay. We don't do that. Safety first. So again, you manifest from who you're being. Are you the person who's quite happy with things happening in your life? And again, the feel good things cheat code helps you with this, because even if you're not focusing on the specific thing, person, or situation that you're manifesting to feel good, which is actually a positive thing, to not be fully putting the pressure on those things, people, or situations to be your sole source of happiness, you are naturally going to be looking through a more favorable lens at things within the realm of your actual manifestation, which means that those things are going to continue to improve and get better. Or are you the person who's looking through the shit smeared lens that everything's terrible, no one ever shows you that they love you, et cetera, et cetera? That's all you're going to see, whether it is actually true to what's happening in the 3D, or whether that's just the lens that you're looking at the world through and the people in your world. So if you want to be chased, and a lot of you are chronic chasers, you have to pull back from chasing. And this is for everyone, but probably even more so for women. You need to pull back on the chasing. You need to just stop, and you need to be doing the cheat codes, which will make that a lot easier and a lot less anxiety ridden. You're going to be able to trust a lot more that things are happening in the background outside of the small amount of HD, high definition, directly in front of you, and the small amount of like blurred vision that you have in your peripherals, right? And when you do that, you are going to notice that the other person, male or female, whatever, does start to come in a bit more to match that energy. But for a lot of you, because you've been such chronic chasers and chronically anxiously attached, you're going to need to overswing the pendulum the other way for a bit and let that other person come in a few times consistently, right? Before you start to have more of a balanced give and take dynamic where it's that yin and yang fitting together, where that balance is. And that's going to be a little bit of a test for you. Well, it's going to be a huge test for you if you're not regulating your nervous system, doing the feel good things cheat code, and working on your self concept in terms of treating yourself how you want to be treated, right? But it is going to be a little bit of a test initially. But when you set that boundary with yourself, when you commit to yourself in that way and tell yourself, like, no, they need to show up a few more times that way before I give. And then once I give, I'm going to trust that they're going to give back. I'm not going to give and then, oh, I haven't given back yet. Okay, I'm going to give a little bit more because then maybe they'll give it back. That's not how it works. Get comfortable with being the receiver. Get comfortable with being chased. It doesn't feel comfortable initially because it's unfamiliar, similar to what I mentioned earlier with the avoidant attachment person. When they start to feel loved and accepted and comfortable, that feels unsafe because it's unfamiliar. It's going to feel unfamiliar for you to be the receiver and to not give anything back in return initially. And again, I'm not saying that you'd go the complete opposite way and become the person who's just only ever taking. there does need to be that balance, similar with the feminine masculine energy. Let me know below if you want me to go into feminine masculine energies. Sorry, my nose keeps itching, in a future video. But there does need to be that balance there, whether it's a same-sex relationship or not. So instead of that tit for tat give and take, no, we're creating a more healthy give and take dynamic in your relationship. And you need to get comfortable with the fact that you might not see the change that you're wanting to see right away when you do that. It can happen, but it might not. And that's where detachment comes in. That's, again, another thing that the cheat codes will help make a lot easier. And when you have that patience and that detachment, and it does happen, then that's going to reinforce your belief in, yeah, okay, when I hold back from giving after I've given already, they do eventually give back. And the more you focus on that, the more it'll happen more regularly, more consistently. And eventually you won't need to remind yourself of these things because it will be playing out very naturally, very consistently in your life. Before I continue with the video, hey legends, I'm Cerise. I'm your self-agency and manifestation coach, and I help you decipher the nuances of conscious manifestation, integrating both the law of assumption and the law of attraction, because a lot of the information in both manuals is either very overcomplicated or very oversimplified, and I've learned a lot of things the hard way, so you don't have to. And if you get anything positive out of this video, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. It helps push my videos out to more people. And if you want to comment to help me with the algorithm, but you don't know what to comment, just put a sparkle emoji, because we're creating literal real world fucking magic on this channel. Is that in focus? Lastly, all the ways that you can work for me, right from freebies all the way to one-to-one coaching, are linked in the description below, as well as the Cheat Code Academy membership waitlist. Those on the waitlist will receive a 50% off code on launch. It's no obligation to join, but you'll only get the 50% off code if you're on the waitlist, and those will be my founding members of the Cheat Code Academy. So the benefit is not only the first month at half price, but every month you decide to remain a member, you can cancel at any time. The other bonus that I suppose you get as a founding member is it'll be the smallest group that will ever be in the academy, which means that you get the benefit of more one-to-one guidance from me before the membership grows. So that is launching in February. I'm super excited. Can't wait to see you in there. So conversely, if you're always the taker, you need to get comfortable with giving a little bit more. So regulating your nervous system when what you want to do is to run away, and give just a little bit more than you normally would in a similar situation. Okay. And when that is the case, you also need to get comfortable with the idea that that might take a little bit of getting used to for the person that you're interested in, because they're so used to you always running away. They might be like, what's happening? And again, the more you regulate your nervous system and do the other two cheat codes, you're going to feel a little more comfortable with communicating to them, like, I know that I can be a little bit like this sometimes. I am working on it. That conversation is going to probably feel very scary in the beginning. So focus more on just giving a little bit more, regulating your nervous system, doing your feel good things that you enjoy that are unrelated to your manifestation, and doing the self-concept work, including treating yourself how you want to be treated. So again, whether you're anxiously attached or avoidant attached, showing yourself the love, care, respect, prioritization, and commitment that you ultimately want, but also might be scary for you and makes you self-sabotage in ways like being anxiously attached, chasing relentlessly, or avoiding, you're going to want to avoid less and less. You're going to feel safer in the idea of being loved and cared for and all those things. If you want to be chosen, you have to choose yourself. You have to choose yourself first. If someone isn't, or you feel like someone isn't, because again, sometimes it's just the lens you're looking at your world through and they're not actually showing up that way. Sometimes they are showing up that way because that's the puzzle piece that fits with the puzzle piece you're showing up as at the moment. But if you think or feel that someone isn't showing up in a way where you feel chosen by them, choose to do the things that you can right now that feel better than that feeling, and spend time with the people in your life that already show up in a way that brings up that feeling of being chosen. Friendships, family members, other people that are romantically interested in you. That's something that I spoke about with my client yesterday as well. And I will do a video on the benefits of entertaining someone else, a second specific personal romantic interest, whilst still knowing that your main SP is your person. Let me know in the comments below as well if that's something you're interested in, even though it is going to be a video that I make. It just means that it might be released sooner rather than later if you show me that that is what you want to see from me to talk about on here. When you spend time with the people that are already showing up in a favorable way, that is giving you that feeling of peace, safety, support, happiness. And those are the things that you're ultimately wanting to feel by manifesting your specific person. So I'm not going to tell you that, just go for someone else who already shows up that way and just settle for that if that's not ultimately who you want. But paradoxically, in entertaining the versions of people who are already showing up that way, that you don't have that opposing story about, that's creating that dam of disbelief, stopping the flow of your manifestations from coming in, you are creating that feeling of safety within you to trust that your main specific person is going to show up the way you want, regardless of what is happening in the physical world. And also because you're preoccupied with those already showing up favorably and doing the things that you enjoy, also contributing to those fulfilling feelings that you're wanting to experience from SP, those are going to amplify and project out into your world and onto more and more people, including SP. You will start to notice more and more people show up in line with those things. But a lot of you are just sitting at home, not spending time with your friends and family who want to spend time with you and show you that love, care, etc., support, commitment, prioritization, because you're solely focusing on the absence of, because they're never absent and they're never in no contact in the 4D. You're too busy focusing on that, creating more of that to be projected out in your world. And because you're not feeling all the good feelings, you're doubting that you can ever feel good. But you can give those things to yourself now. It's not the feelings that manifest, but when you feel those feelings now in the ways that you can already, then you don't doubt that you can have the things that you want. It's easier to believe or not disbelieve that you can have what you want. When you're not feeling love from anywhere because you're not entertaining the love that already exists, then you start to feel like you'll never be loved, that you're unlovable. And you're actually choosing that for yourself without realizing it. What you fill your own cup with is what overflows and projects out into your physical world. If all you're doing is doing the thought piece, the law of assumption piece, I want you to think of your cup being filled with water and oil. The water is the feelings, the memories stored as feelings in your physiology, your body, your nervous system, and the oil is the thoughts. Because oil floats on water, if all you're doing is addressing the thoughts, that is what will continue to push out, but you will always have to continue to pour those thoughts in constantly. It's going to be exhausting. Most of you will burn out before you get your manifestation at 100% download, because you're going to burn out or get physically and or mentally unwell like I did. That's why I'm saying it. I'm not creating a limiting belief. I mean, you can risk it if you want, but also why wouldn't you choose the path that feels better than the obsessively affirming crying in the fetal position every night? Not that I'm saying you can't cry. Do cry and cry till you can't cry anymore and get that shit out, because that is releasing the water underneath the oil. That's the old memory stored as feelings. Definitely do that. But that is another thing a lot of you aren't doing then as well. You're stifling, when you come across the law of assumption, you stifle your feelings because you're like, no, I just have to stay on top of my thoughts and everything's going to happen. And you don't at all address the feelings part that you would have done had you not come across the law of assumption, which is why I teach both an integrative form of both law of assumption and law of attraction. Because whilst it is your thoughts that anchor you to your end goal and steer the ship in the moment, the feelings piece is important if you want to manifest healthily, if you want it to be an enjoyable experience, if you don't want to feel shitty all the time. And really, if your self-concept was as good as what a lot of you tell me it is all the time, why would you then choose the path that feels shitty? Do you really love yourself if you're choosing the path that feels the worst when you know that there's an alternate option out there because I'm teaching it to you and now it is a choice because I'm telling you? This is why I make it very clear that I teach self-concept more as treating yourself how you want to be treated. If you really loved yourself, and remember what projects out into your world is what you pour into your own cup. If you really loved yourself, you would choose the things in your life that show up in line with that already and focus less on the things that don't. If you really respected yourself, you would entertain the versions of people that show up in a respectful manner towards you already, instead of focusing on why isn't this person respecting me? And when you focus on what already exists in the physical world, showing up in line with the things that you want to experience and feel, that amplifies and projects out again more into your world and onto the people in your world as well. And going back to the giving and receiving, right? Nobody is taking advantage of someone who doesn't overgive or give more than they receive. So when people start to take advantage of that, it's not even a conscious thing. You are, again, going back to psychology, you are training them to think that that's okay, that's the role you play in their life, is you're the giver, so they can just always keep taking, right? And what you're doing when they're showing up in a way that's always taking and you're always giving, hoping that that will change them from a taker to a giver, is you're actually reinforcing the behavior that you don't like. I've used this analogy before. If a dog peed on the carpet, do you give it a treat and say good boy or good dog or good girl? No, you don't. When you keep overgiving to people who continue to take and not give, you are positively reinforcing the behavior that you don't want. You are giving them a treat for the behavior that you don't want to keep experiencing. So everyone shows up in your world in accordance with who you're showing up as. Everyone is you pushed out. So everyone is a projection of what is going on within you. They show up as the puzzle piece that fits whatever puzzle piece you're presenting as, whatever the puzzle piece you're being. Everyone experiences everyone else based on who they're showing up as themselves, okay? Everyone is you pushed out.